Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I'd like to touch on some little known information on the L.B.L. For the last couple of months, I've been doing an upload here and there about the L.B.L. and sharing just a little bit of not really looked at info or not really shared info. So I'm going to do a little bit more of that today. Before we get into this upload, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version. Written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. They're available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, and the links to those books are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first part of the upload was taken from a historical summary of Kentucky and Land Between the Lakes. Early in the summer of 1902, at around 11 o'clock in the evening, two men were walking down the road near Center Furnace, in what is now the Land Between the Lakes, when they encountered a strange animal, a fierce-looking beast lurking in the darkness. William Littlejohn and William McWaters, both of Trigg County, didn't tell their story to the papers until weeks later, but they relayed their sighting in vivid detail. The beast was 6 feet tall and covered in hair. It reared and growled upon seeing the pair of Williams. The men swore it was ape-like, even stating they thought it was a gorilla. Littlejohn raised his gun and fired 3 times. Perhaps we in the local and family history department are a little too eager to even suggest that this story smacks of Sasquatch sighting. After all, we are a department which strives towards and prides itself on hard, accurate research. But we do like ourselves a mystery and oddball stories as well. And really, just how likely is it that the two men saw a gorilla in western Kentucky in 1902? There were no stories of zoo escapes or overturned circus trains in that area. While the Bigfoot sighting craze didn't truly hit its stride until the 50s, culminating with the release of the notorious Patterson Bigfoot video in the late 60s, legends abound in oral traditions of ape-like creatures wandering the woods, mountains, and countrysides, and not just in the United States, but on every continent except Antarctica. The Yeti from the Himalayas, Yahweh from Australia, and the Yurn from China. Native American history is rich with stories of giant man-beasts, dozens of them across the nation and into Canada. In fact, a British Columbian tribe gave us the now common term Sasquatch. Western Kentucky has its own Bigfoot legacy. The Chickasaw, who first settled our region, had a legend about a luffa, a long-haired bipedal creature who roamed the woods at night and overpowered foes with its body odor. Claims of Sasquatch sightings in the L.B.L. area have been made as recent as 2011, and other claims throughout Kentucky are cataloged by the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. We even found a story in the Paducah Sun from October of 1897, which claimed Wild Man was roaming the Lovelaceville section of Paducah. This man-beast was later discovered merely to be a large sow with missing ears. However, no such claim was ever made about the creature that Littlejohn and McWaters stumbled across on that summer evening in 1902. Littlejohn raised his gun and fired 3 times. The beast fell to the ground, and after struggling for a few seconds, dragged itself off into the woods, growling ferociously, and could be heard for quite the distance. Paducah Sun, August 1st, 1902. Neither man chose to follow the creature that night, but McWaters went back the next morning and witnessed the trail the creature left by dragging its hindquarters through the brush. Curiously, McWaters found no trace of blood. Littlejohn and McWaters stated that they had seen a gorilla that night, and perhaps, by some accident, a circus or miracle of migration, they actually had. The theory of Occam's razor would suggest the creature was a black bear, though you'd think country boys like those would have known a bear if they saw one. Besides, black bears, which were never very common in western Kentucky anyway, were essentially eliminated from the whole state of Kentucky by the early 1900s. So maybe, just maybe, there is an inkling of truth to the old Chickasaw legend of the Laffa. Maybe, just maybe, Little John and McWaters can be listed as the two men who made western Kentucky's first recorded Sasquatch sighting. Of course, we in the local and family history department can't offer any proof that it is the first sighting. Today's second part is a rather curious case. Well, I find it curious because there was a woman that went missing in May of 2015, and she had been missing for a couple days, and they found her, and when they found her, they claimed that it was a suicide. Now, I did some research on it, and well, I'm just going to share the two articles with you that I stumbled across, and then share with you guys the research that I did. Indian Mound woman found in L.B.L. Stewart County Sheriff Derek Wyatt said the body of a missing Indian Mound woman was discovered Friday morning in the Land Between the Lakes recreation area. Authorities had been looking for Heather Newman, who was reported missing on Tuesday. It's still under investigation, but I can say it's an apparent suicide, Wyatt said. The sheriff would not elaborate on many details. Newman's husband contacted the sheriff's office at around 2:30 on May 19th and reported he had not heard from his wife since earlier in the day, which was unusual. Investigators said Newman left her workplace in Clarksville that morning, went to her home, and then left. Authorities began getting information out about Newman and the description of the vehicle she was driving. Wyatt said a citizen saw a blue Ford Expedition in L.B.L. and reported it. Newman's body was found at around 7:30 in the morning near the lake. Update: missing Stewart woman found dead. Stewart County Sheriff's Office confirms to Fox 17 that Heather Newman was found dead. Her body was found in the Land Between the Lakes recreational area Friday morning. The cause of death is still under investigation, but it appears to be a suicide. We will update this page when we know more. Heather Newman of Stewart County had been missing since Tuesday, according to the Stewart County Sheriff's Office. The 28-year-old had been last seen driving her 2003 blue Expedition, leaving her residence in the afternoon of May 19th. She was wearing pink nursing scrubs, pink and yellow earrings, black square-framed glasses, black nursing shoes similar to Crocs, and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail and a pink band. She described as white, 5'1", tall, and weighs about 125 pounds. Anyone with information is asked to contact the sheriff's office immediately at 931 redacted. The office says officers have been actively patrolling and checking every possible place we can think of. A statewide BOLO was issued after her disappearance. So, little of why I think something is up on this. First of all, she's 28 years old. She is in the medical field. What I could find about her, very happy, enjoyed music, was married. Just going to work, leaving her home after was very unusual, as is stated in the article, but it appeared she was very happy with her life. No apparent mental issues, no issues with work or anything. Marital matters, whatever they're called, marital, personal. So her taking her own life was very, very unlikely, and really not something that anyone who knew her would think she would do. Also, the news articles, there was news articles in regards to her missing, and then which they were thinking possible kidnapping, this and that in the very beginning. And then the update when she was found, there was no service announcements, no autopsy release, no update, if you know what I mean. No confirmation of the statements made in the update. Also, she was found outside of her vehicle, close to the lake, and as we all know, there's been numerous sightings and attacks close to the lake. I've never thought about what she had done, but my own idea, or whatever you want to call it, why leave your car? You're that unhappy, it just does not make sense. Also, how? There was no mention of how, and so this is just very, very disturbing. Now, I know a little bit about the media part on this, because when I was 14, me and two of my friends stumbled upon someone who had taken their own life out in the woods on the trails by our house. The news article was descriptive, not like what we just heard. So I don't know. There's just a lot of things doesn't really feel right on that, if you know what I mean. Anyway, moving on, shall we? Ooh, I said it twice in this upload. The land between the lakes is a secluded wilderness area that straddles the Kentucky and Tennessee borders. 170,000 acres, designated as a national recreation area in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy. People have been going there for decades to hunt, fish, and camp, and all that time the national park has had its fair share of strange stories and mysterious happenings. Locals have told stories of haunted campgrounds, vampire hotels, and the famously known Bigfoot. The land has also particular events that many cannot explain. A lot of people, while following many game trails, have reported a feeling like they were being watched. More unsettling still is those people swear they were being stalked by whatever was watching them. Other instances include hunters noticing strange hunting patterns that do not match up to any of the local predators, and blood-curdling howls that someone could differentiate from the normal wolf or coyote, with hunting dogs refusing to lead them into the direction the sound came from, whimpering and cowering in fear. The buffalo that L.B.L. is so famous to have been affected. Some of the younger calves have been hunted, which would not be totally uncommon A mountain lion or a pack of bold coyote could kill a small calf. This doesn't explain, however, the state of agitation that can be found in some of the older buffalo, who would have little fear of a solitary mountain lion. European settlers first came upon the land would also tell of an adult buffalo themselves found utterly gutted, brutally killed, half-eaten by some unknown predator. This would lead some to believe that there was something much bigger and more sinister. There are whispers of something unnatural lurking the territories of L.B.L, and thus people began to blame the most frightening creature spotted every now and then for terrorizing the land. They call it the beast of L.B.L. Almost all descriptions match up consistently. It stands a little over 2 meters or 7 feet. The creature itself looking like a wolf standing and walking on its hind legs, sporting clawed hands, huge jaws, packed with wicked teeth, dark, shaggy hair, red glowing eyes that stare wildly at those it sees. Most typically, eyewitnesses smell it before they spot it. A rotten stench heralds the beast's arrival. With all things considered, the beast is perhaps one of America's werewolf-like creatures like the beast of Bray Road and the rougarou that are said to roam the dark woodlands and swamps of the undiscovered. Known by some as Dogman, the upbringing of the beast is a mystery, and many have told their own tale of the creature's origin. One of the few more popular ones being that the beast was once a Native American shaman who practiced shape-shifting, but he had abused his powers in the name of evil. Others of his tribe hunted him down and killed him in wolf shape, and he placed a curse on the land, his spirit prowling the grounds as a horrifying amalgamation of man and wolf. Another legend speaks of a man who had left Europe in the 1800s to settle between the rivers. This man supposedly possessed a disease that turned him mad at nightfall. The disease was believed to be genetic and was passed from parent to child over the years. They remained in seclusion, never going to school or had the desire to socialize with others until one day when they went silent. Many believed that the family died off. An investigation in the early 1900s revealed that their homestead vacant and abandoned. Early accounts from French explorers and traders in the region speak of being warned of a shadowy presence of the loup-garou by Shawnee fur traders, a werewolf which the immigrants would spot only glimpses of dashing through the shadows of the tree line, hearing its howl, which was like a scream from another world, and stumbling across the ghastly aftermath of its prey. Despite being considered a local legend, there are sightings that persist to this day of people seeing or otherwise being stalked by this creature. One of the most frightening of these happened to a group of Murray State University students who had been camping at the Land Between the Lakes in 1973. A group of young men were enjoying the woods on a warm spring weekend, sitting around the fire they built by their Volkswagen microbus, and just generally having a fine time. As the evening began to draw in, one of the students went off into the woods to answer nature's call. When he returned to the campsite, he told his friends that he had felt like something was watching him, and that he heard something sniffing in the woods. His friend just said that he heard some wild hog or some other animal. The student said he had never heard anything like it before, and grew increasingly nervous as the darkness gathered. As night grew dark, the group started to hear shuffling sound from something large moving in the fallen leaves. It seemed to be circling their campsite, moving incredibly swift. The boys became very anxious. They shined their flashlights into the woods in the direction of the footsteps, but saw nothing. And then the howling began. It was wild, insane howling, like a wolf, only much louder than a wolf could ever be. And with an unnatural, blood-curdling quality that made the howling sound almost like mocking laughter. It seemed to come from everywhere around them. First one side of the circle of light around the fire, and then to the other. Soon the terrified campers began to catch glimpses of a pair of glowing red eyes as it ran past in the dark. The terrified boys retreated to their VW bus, and wisely decided not to stick around and get out of there. Tearing down the road, they soon saw what they were being pursued by. It was a massive shadowy figure, and it was racing behind them, barely visible in the bus's taillights. As the bus slowed to take a corner, they felt a massive jolt, and then it seemed as if something was holding the V-dub back. Giving it everything, they broke free, tore out of the forest, and didn't stop until they were back at Murray State Campus. Back on campus, they found 4 deep gashes like claw marks torn into the metal of the engine compartment cover at the back of the bus. Experienced hunters shy away from the area, but those sportsmen who are new enough to the area to scoff at the legend often come home with tales of feeling as if they were being stalked through the woods. Deep holes like nests are often found dug in the woods, with tufts of long, coarsely textured grayish-brown fur found within them. Rangers in the park are routinely asked what that strange howling was that a camper heard during the night. Now, I really don't like to touch on this story often because everybody knows it, and it seems to be like the it thing to discuss now. But, well, here's some, check this out. However, one of the most persistent and notorious tales involved a tourist family in the 80s. It had no media attention at all. It was kept hush-hush, and the sacred silence was demanded on all who involved. It couldn't get out ever. It was a few weeks before the beginning of tourist season. The tourists were what locals survive on. They're their bread and butter. A story like this would be like screaming shark at Daytona Beach or child molester at Disneyland. The people would stop coming out of fear. Police were called to the area by an individual who happened to drive by a camper trailer and spotted something lying on the ground. Along with the door to the trailer being busted, what they showed up to investigate was a grisly scene. A night of family fun and relaxation ruined and dashed by the rage of a psychopathic madman or animal. What was lying on the ground in front of the trailer was the father's body. His upper torso, excluding head, was found a few meters from the door, which had been bashed and left in a crooked slant. He was completely torn apart. Next, they went into the RV, which looked like a slaughterhouse, with blood caking the walls and crimson handprints dragged on them. The mother was found in the kitchen. Cause of death, while not officially listed yet, will be from either blood loss or significant trauma to the head and chest. Her body was the most intact of the 3 found on the scene, but shows clear signs of being partially devoured, and her fingertips were torn and ragged, hinting that she attempted to fight off her attacker to the best of her ability. Sticking to her bloodied fingers and under whatever nails that weren't torn off was strange, dark fur, which police took as evidence. They searched the camper more, and despite the 2 bodies they met, nothing prepared for such acts to be carried out on a child. They found the body of a boy, possibly 10 to 12, in the bathroom, most likely attempting to hide from the assailant. The body showed clear signs of mutilation and was in 3 separate pieces, with 2 pieces, the torso, including the head, lacking the left arm and right leg, found on the bathroom's floor, and the rest, left arm and head, found in the shower box. Again, obvious animal signs were found, such as deep marks done by sharp instrument on the doorway and body. Yet, there were often 4 slashes in one spot, with a smaller digit. This overall shape gave the impression of claws. Overwhelming as it was, the police found one last detail, a shred of small Cinderella pajamas. It was then they realized there was a 4th member of this unfortunate family. A little girl, perhaps 5 or 6. She wasn't on the crime scene, so they incited a search party, hoping that she was alive somewhere, hiding. From somewhere in the nearby woods, about 50 yards from the campfire, a scream was heard, a man's shriek that turned into a long wail and then whimpering. As others arrived, they could see, by the gleam of several flashlights, that a cop was holding his hat in one hand and his light in the other. There was blood on his face, the front of his shirt, and the brim of his hat. More blood could be seen dripping on him. It was coming from high above. High in the trees, the flashlight swung, searching for the source of this mysterious bleeding. A very small hand could be seen dangling down from the tree limb way high, as well as slender, lifeless leg that still had a white sock still on its foot. The missing child had been located. The blood hit the hat first, making him look up, and then feeling the thick, cold fluid sprinkling his face, then sliding down to his neatly buttoned shirt. It had been that officer that had screamed. The little girl had apparently been carried up the tree and leisurely eaten upon while carefully laid across the large tree branch. More of the same long gray and brown fur was found sticking to the bark of the tree near the body. From saliva found on the victims to the mysterious hair found, DNA samples were taken. The test later came back with an unknown species of origin. The closest animal that it could be compared to was Canis lupus, the wolf. As for the beast of L.B.L, no one really knows what it is. But it remains an unsettling case of what might or might not be something very strange and dangerous indeed roaming about the wilderness of the land between the lakes.